Welcome to Season 2 of Sonic Subcultures. This season, Marc, Lajeunesse, and I, Safa, Hachi, look at 10 of our most formative records. Before we started a music and cultural podcast, we just vibed with the records we loved. In different ways, we became part of many different musical subcultures as we grew into the music lovers we are today. How do the Spice Girls, indie sleaze, and hardcore affect a person's musical journey? What kind of connections are there between these widely different genres? And then when you put them together, what kind of listener do they make? Stick with us on this season of Sonic Subcultures as we explore these questions through 10 formative albums.
On this episode of Sonic Subcultures, Spice Girls, Spiceworld. Before getting into Limp Bizkit and their new metal contemporaries, what possible group could be preparing an 11-year-old boy to take a dive into nu metal before a lifelong obsession with heavy and experimental music? There can be only one answer: the Spice Girls. Seemingly from out of nowhere, the Spice Girls appeared on our screens and saturated our radios here in Canada at the tail end of 1996. Their first record, Spice, though already available internationally, wasn't released in North America until February 1997. But then not even a full year later, they'd have a second album and a tie-in movie for that same record. Spice Girls was an explosion, part of a wave of mid to late 90s pop acts like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. But the Spice Girls stood out, not just because they were the parallel girl group, but because the five of them had a larger-than-life energy that seemed spontaneous, authentic, and sincere, in spite of the layers of corporate artifice, branding, and merchandising that was obvious to anyone looking. But it didn't matter. The anthem of girl power somehow rallied not only young women, but a cadre of young men, me and my friends, each of whom had their favorite Spice Girl, a copy of each record, and the Spiceworld film on VHS, so we could get together and watch it multiple times, singing and dancing along with the on-screen performances. We were spice-pilled. If you've listened to season 1 of this podcast, this might all seem a bit crazy, and honestly it does to me too. What is the Spice Girls to nu metal pipeline? On a season talking about our most formative records, there's no way for me to take the task seriously without reckoning with the influence Spice Girls had. Not just culturally, which was enormous, but on me and my friends, those same Limp Bizkit nu metal fans. If I consider my trajectory as a musician, as a scholar, as a human, Spice Girls played a short-lived but intense role. So going back, what was their record, Spiceworld, about? And is there anything I can find on this record that I can clearly see that stuck with me to this day? Welcome to season 2 of Sonic Subcultures. This is our inaugural episode of this season. We're talking about Spice Girls, Spiceworld. Kind of a hard pivot from what we were talking about before. And so to start off, I kind of want to reframe what this pod is going to be about for this 10 episode stretch. For this podcast, and really for this whole season, we're thinking less of these records as a history, but more of like a snapshot of two things that revolve around each of these records, right? On one hand, we're looking at the culture that produced the record and the culture that it helped to produce. And then as people with some relationship to those cultural points of view, one person who's familiar with the record, the other who I think coming to it mostly for the first time. Each record is very formative for one of us and not for the other. So we're continuing that nu metal then and now experiment, just in a different context. So based on that, we're looking at the question of what endured and persisted in us, if not the culture, and like when another person takes a look at that, what do they see? So, Spice Girls.
Spice Girls.
Spice Girls, Spiceworld.
Yeah, we're clocking into the identity factory. Let's get started.
Let's get started for sure. So, before I get into this, there's two things I want to emphasize, and then I'll start asking Safa some questions about Spice Girls, because to be clear, Spice Girls is my choice. This is my record here. We're going to alternate my record, Safa's record. And I'm also kind of thinking about them as a bundle. So this episode and episode 2, you can kind of take together, because I do think they do complement each other in strange ways. So Two things on Spice Girls that I want to talk about. Point one, how short the Spice Girls run actually was. I mentioned this a little bit in the introduction, but I want to double down on this here. Their first records releases in 1996 in the UK. Okay, February 1997 in North America. Radio play happens a bit sooner, but really we're talking about 1997 is when they hit large in North America. Their second record, Spiceworld, releases in November 1997. That's 10 months, I think?
Very quick.
It's very quick. The movie releases 2 months later in 1998, which was a critical bomb, but a commercial success and a personal ultra success. The number of times I've seen that movie is high, but also I could not remember a thing about it, which tells you about the content a little bit, I think.
It was a blur.
It was a blur. After that, later in 1998, Jerry Halliwell leaves the band, right? And though the group technically continued on from this point onwards, and they did drop a final album after that, no. It was pretty much done. It was a slow, sad decline. The fans were holding on, but like, that's a 2-year span of incredible potency. They are still the best-selling girl group of all time with 100 million records worldwide. And since people stopped buying records, they're probably going to hold on to that forever. So you can carve it in marble, place it in the Agora, Spice Girls. Just for some comparison, though, so in case you're not used to sales, their closest male equivalent act, the Backstreet Boys, sold an estimated 130 million. While for reference, Michael Jackson, who's not a group, sold 500 million. He's sitting at the top of the pile.
Damn.
Yeah. And then there are solo female acts who have sold more, like Beyonce. And maybe Adele, but I'm
It's
not
always
actually
tight with
sure.
them too, I swear.
Yeah. So that's point one. It was quick. In 2 years, they sold almost as much as the Backstreet Boys did in their entire career. The second thing I want to talk about here is how intense it was. Like the appeal of girl power and that cultural moment. They were everywhere. And the example that I would like to bring in here is Nelson Mandela. Safa, are you familiar with this?
Nelson Mandela,
You
yes,
do know
but
Nelson
the link
Mandela.
to
Yes,
Spice Girls,
okay.
no.
Yes, exactly. So there's this meeting with Nelson Mandela. Prince Charles is also there. And it's kind of like a photo op presser. It's a short-lived thing. But the moment is wild because Jerry, Ginger Spice, kind of steals the moment from the anti-apartheid global figure of peace and then president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela. So this is Jerry Halliwell, and I quote, "I think there's a classic speech that Nelson Mandela did, and I can't remember exactly, but he mentioned, never suppress yourself, never make yourself feel small for others' insecurities, and that's what girl power is all about. So I think we're on the same level."
Whoa, I mean, bold statement, Jerry. Oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah, but that was the magic, right? And so in the intro, I talked about that like authenticity, the sincerity. That's not a pre-planned moment,
Yeah.
I don't think, right? It's fairly off the cuff. And then President Mandela was just like, like sincere. He loved them. But there is also an air of like, he's an old dude surrounded on this stage by a bunch of attractive young women. And he's just like, he's got a bit of old man surrounded by cute ladies energy.
I mean, yeah, he's like girl power. Like whatever
exactly.
you say, ladies.
But the Spice Girls were kind of reveling in it a little bit. So on the intensity front, there's this kind of cult logic a little bit, as with any kind of fandom there is, right? But it's specifically tied to not just the commodity part of them, but like girl power as an idea, right? Because while it's a sentiment worth championing, it is also a slogan and brand that is marketing these women as a commodity. But more than that, it's to build the relationship that the audience had with Spice Girls as worthwhile because the association itself is rooted in this kind of progress. It's this very early liberal appeal sloganeering, but that doesn't necessarily make it less legitimate for the effects that it had, right? It is mass market feminism. The series The Boys that's airing recently has like a girls get it done play on this kind of idea. This is fully in the like girls get it done mode that kind of pioneered that in this era. But there's a question of, does it matter that it's kind of vapid in the way it's presented and fully commercialized? Because the idea is still super, super important, right? Part of me wants to believe, as I channel my inner 11-year-old who doesn't know shit about the world, that the amount of cultural visibility that they gave the idea of girl power did more overall good than harm. And that's something we can take up as we talk about this record. And I do want to also preface that with, I know there are some scholarly takes that see it the other way. There's Daphne Lamish. She has a piece called Spiceworld, Constructing Femininity the Popular Way, that's pointing out that what the Spice Girls were selling was a very specific sexualized version of femininity. It's been nearly 30 years since they've appeared, and I also think we're not really doing pop culture feminism in a different way than that now still, and so the critique is certainly valid, but in this one instance, for some reason, and it's probably only like nostalgia for that period of my youth, that innocence, I want to believe this was better than it is worse. So that's where that is. Before we get into the Spiceworld album, there's a few orders of business we have to attend to here. The first thing is that we have to hear from Safa. What is your relationship to the Spice Girls?
Honestly, compared to you, definitely not a super fan for sure. But I genuinely have no connection to them. I think other than having maybe sung Wanna Be a couple times at a karaoke bar. Mm-hmm. Like the classic, like you know them because of how impactful they are. And I feel like, to me at least, like Mel B is always like the one who kind of carried that legacy just because she made it past UK media and was found, like, you know, I think she hosted a bunch of award shows, and I think she was on the X Factor and stuff like that. She made it big. So I just associate like my link of knowing Spice Girls to knowing a couple songs and then seeing Mel B around. So really like nothing.
Okay, really? So are you familiar with any of the other ones? Because they all, not all of them, but I would say Ginger Spice, Jerry Halliwell, Mel B, and certainly Victoria Beckham have maintained in different spheres of culture some kind of cultural presence.
I'm going to be honest, it's going to be a very Gen Z take where it's like, if you're on my For You page or I know someone linked to you, then I know you. So it's very much just Miss Posh Spice.
Okay,
that's really it. And
it's
it's because of like soccer culture. She kind of became, which is kind of unfortunate for her, I guess. She became like the perfect wife of the athlete. Like that was kind of her brand to us. Like that's how she's branded.
Girl
like
power.
Girl power, right? Like it reversed super quickly. But that's how I was kind of introduced to her, where you aim to be this rich person who like has enough accomplishments under their belt to not rely on a man, but also not be linked to those accomplishments anymore, and kind of just be like a rich baddie who has a soccer player heartthrob husband, which is kind of unfortunate. But to be honest, the other ones, nope. Like, no, I hate to say it, but if I probably saw them walking down the street, like not in their attire, I don't think I would look back, which is quite sad because I think I was Sporty Spice for Halloween, but that was my mom's doing. Like she put me in the outfit and was like living my dreams like vicariously through my kid.
Your mom continues to deliver on this podcast.
No, like let's bring my mom because she would have a better convo, I think, about the Spice Girls.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, the maybe most important question on this podcast, which we're going to kind of reverse here, is who do we think each other's favorite Spice Girl is? And for the audience, in case you don't know, the 5 Spice Girls are Mel B / Scary Spice, Mel C / Sporty Spice, Jerry Halliwell / Ginger Spice, Victoria now Beckham / Posh Spice, and then Emma Bunton / Baby Spice. That's who we have. So, I mean, you kind of gave away some stuff where I feel like I've got 2 options.
Perhaps.
Is it Scary Spice?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's Scary Spice.
But I do think it's not because of like the Mel B link. Like I just thought that I liked her energy. I thought she was like rowdy and scary. Like not scary, but the energy of it just seeming more like alternative, for lack of better words, in a group where it's like Sporty, Baby, Posh, and Ginger. Like I was just like, she's badass. Like that's what I remember from the Wannabe music video, as that's my only link to them.
Oh yeah, she did a lot of work on that first record. It's certainly a lot of people's favorite, I think, rightfully so. So you can guess mine, but I mean, we have to kind of clarify. Are you guessing current Marc's favorite Spice Girl, or I think the more interesting thing is 11 to 13-year-old Marc, who was my favorite Spice Girl?
That's hard because I feel like I'm seeing Marc now and trying to guess on that.
I see.
But I would guess that it would be, maybe you would say Sporty Spice or Scary Spice, but secretly it was Baby Spice.
Interesting. So my favorite Spice Girl now is Sporty Spice.
Okay.
Which is, based on how things were in 1997, such a a pivot. When I was 11, it was Posh Spice.
Oh my God.
And I can't tell you why. She was, at the time, and kind of still, the most bland.
That's why she was your favorite.
I don't know.
You like that quiet luxury life.
No, maybe there's something about, like, I always had the aspiration of being a housewife, and like,
well, look, now that's how she seemed.
No, I know, and I was like, that's my path, but wasn't born for that world. So we're going to pivot into Spiceworld itself. We're doing the second record because I think it is a much better record in a lot of ways. Production-wise, it's better. The songwriting is a bit better. It's also, like, it captures the apex of the Spice Girls moment. The movie was there. It had all the songs from this on it. They're performing them. To start this, however, we have a tradition on Sonic Subcultures where I read a review. And so I'm going to read a review. This review is 2 paragraphs from Entertainment Weekly's original review of this record, written by David Brown on November 7th, 1997. It begins, "Sometimes you just want to plunge a dagger right into your own heart. Your mind tells you to be sensible and not overly emotional, but that blood-pumping organ intervenes. This dilemma is particularly true when it comes to pop. You try to ignore the latest piece of unmitigated, irredeemable audio junk food, yet you continue to listen anyway. And in the last few years, that scenario has not been more true than it's been with Spice Girls. In theory, no one except those between the ages of 8 and 15 and a bunch of lonely guys should care about the Spice Girls.
Ooh.
They're brazen and blatantly contrived, and in order to have become as world-renowned as they are, they've probably sold a number of close relatives into slavery. Nice job, David Brown. They spout cheeky comments in public and pick their noses for interviewers. Their first album, Spice, shamelessly bundled together rap, power ballads, and bubblegum pop. Now, a mere 9 months after the US release of Spice, they're back in our faces with a follow-up, Spiceworld, as well as an upcoming authorized biography and feature film. You've already seen the Pepsi ad, right? So,
harsh.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds me of when you read, like, a Rotten Tomatoes review for, like, The Princess Diaries, and it's like an old man who's taking it way too seriously and feels like he's understanding. Like, I get in a way where he's going with the whole, like, fabricated, commercialized girl power that you mentioned as well. But it just feels like as much as he thinks he's getting it, he's also falling into the trap of not getting it, like hating on it. And that kind of was the point of having them be so prevalent and so, like, girl powery to other women and girls.
For sure.
And young boys.
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly out of the target audience. It's also really important to think about. I mean, we saw this in the new metal episodes as well. There's like a music review culture that one day we're going to have to do an episode on it, because I consistently bump into this, both in my just personal search for new music and especially in going back and looking at reviews relative to these records, where the state of music reviewership is based on vibes alone, but like the least charitable vibes imaginable. That is not really productive for thinking about music in any generative way. It's brutal. The music review thing is truly harsh. And also add to this that pop at this time was really denigrated. We're coming after grunge, right? On the eve of new metal exploding. There really is this counter-cultural desire for mainstream music to not pivot back to really corporate manufactured stuff. That's a very strong energy in the air. And so I do think a lot of reviews for pop music at this time have that, just in general.
Yeah.
And if you're, this aspect of this is still true today. If you're at the top and you reach it that quickly, you're clearly, like, someone strapped a rocket to you. The Spice Girls did work hard as individuals. I don't doubt that. But there are a million other bands who are working hard as individuals. If you get here, a large machine behind you has moved you to that place, right? And I think that's also a thing that these reviewers are probably frustrated by. If a lot of reviewers are also amateur musicians, I think they're like, you can't get a clear perspective because the jealousy is always part of these reviews, right? And so it's important to keep in mind that the Spice Girls, for many people, inhabited that space.
I think it's a shame too, though. I didn't look detailed into reviews, but any space where the Spice Girls are being talked about, like at the time of this release, if it's not hating on them, let's say out of jealousy, if you do like them, and this is still very relevant to pop singers today, it's a guilty pleasure. Like, it's guilty pleasure music.
Right.
And I feel like it serves to diminish the legitimacy of pop music, and it's just like kind of grouping women into a sound of, there's no way I could like this without it being the butt of the joke.
Sure.
And I think that's like, the music is what it is, right? And we'll get into that when talking about the album, and if we go through like our individual listening parties and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it is fun, it's cute, it's cool. It doesn't have to be like embarrassing that it is. So it does suck that it really is either like, I'm jealous, or I'm gonna listen to it in secret, or like, it's a shame that I like it, like I'm embarrassed.
Yeah. So David Brown ends that review with a mention about an ad. Have you seen this ad? Do you know what it is? Okay, so you've seen it.
Ad.
Yes. So there's a Pepsi ad. It's for the song Move Over, and I believe the Pepsi ad itself is called Generation Next, which is a line from the ad, or it's what the ad is called. And so the Spice Girls are in this alley/street singing Move Over, doing their Spice Girls thing and showing cans of Pepsi to the camera. Whoa! With, fisheye lensing and that kind of 90s commercial camera stuff. This ad got a lot of hate. I mean, it was everywhere, but I think it was just part of that Spice Girls saturation. Anytime you hit that critical mass, that media saturation point, the haters come out. That's the thing that's going to happen. So I watched that commercial. It is schlock. It is the 90s pop marketing version of AI slop. Like, slop was always there. It was just put out in a different way. But I searched for this video, watched it, and then went through the comments, and the top comment, which made me laugh, was, "Unforgettable 90s, such a decade, can never be reproduced."
Oh, that person is mourning.
And I'm like, nah. And my immediate thought was when things have become so dire that we're nostalgic for the 90s, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong.
I mean, talk to the entire like Generation Z. Like, that's what we yearn for. Like, that's the time we're like still grasping onto.
Yeah, when we're yearning for Bill Clinton, things are tough.
Question things.
Tough. All right. Is there any last preemptive stuff you want to get into before we dive into the record?
No, I think everything else will flow in after that. I've got some
Okay.
thoughts and comments.
So for our listeners who haven't listened for a while, or any first-time listeners to this episode because we've pivoted to an accessible album, what we do is we do 2 listens each, at least. The first listen is just a, go out for your walk, hang out, just listen, absorb. And then listen 2 or more is a close listen where we talk about the lyrics. We look at the lyrics as we listen, and we come together with the things that we found and we chat them up here. This record's only 38 minutes long. You're in and out on this one. And while there was a real amateur quality to their first record, it's really been ironed out here. It's hard to say because of the context in which a pop record in the 90s is made. I mean, still, but even in the 90s especially, how much of the development of the sound and the added polish on this thing has to do with their growth as performers and songwriters, because the Spice Girls co-wrote all their stuff. People say they don't. They did. There is always this lingering question of, but how much? And in what way? And I don't think there's ever actually going to be an easy answer to that, because there are so many people involved in the making of a record like this, both in the writing and the production, right? And so did they develop? Did the production get better? Because there's obviously a substantially larger amount of money thrown in this album's direction after the success of the first one. But as you're listening, if you're not thinking about all that stuff, there's very clearly a polish here. It feels like a sheen. If the first record is a blank fingernail, this one is polished up all nice, right? It really is. And so on my first listen, I was thinking about, in terms of the record's identity, because I knew I liked this record more than the first one. As a kid, this was one of my favorite records at this time. It was my favorite record at this time, at this age. And I couldn't tell why. Listening back to it, what does the record do? Well, it kind of just genre hops from song to song and gives the girls different flavors of pop to do their thing over. That's what this does. And while the songs change styles, the one thing that I noticed is that what the Spice Girls do themselves is very similar across each track. And though it's not bad, it's just you're effectively transplanting the very same formula of the girls on top of a different subgenre of pop. And in that way, I found it hard to actually define the record holistically. I listened to this. I think I listened to it 15 times for this podcast. It's a sickness, really. And I still don't have a short synopsis of this other than it's the Spice Girls.
It's fun. Like,
it is. Is it not fun?
That's what it is. At first, like the first listen, I think it did go by quick because it's a short record, but I think that I was so caught up on like how much like fun I was having. Like I caught myself like bopping my shoulders a bit in my room. Like it's cute, it's fun, it's cool, it's sexy. Like, you know, I don't know. Like it seemed, I used the word simple not to bring down the album, but in the way that it's like, I feel like it didn't need a lot of extra stuff to be good.
Right.
It was like the girls are singing, the girls sound good. Like I like the vocals are good, they all sound good together, but I like that they can shine individually, which I feel like is, it's not that it's hard today, but it's more pinned up as a competition. Like a girl will be like riffing and trying to like fight on a record like with girl groups today, but it felt like everything was cohesive and natural while still being good and fun and over a nice beat. That's what I found.
Yeah, so listening back based on the kind of cultural place that each of the individual Spice Girls had, the thing that I found really interesting about this record is that Sporty was like the least popular back in the day. She is running circles around the other Spice Girls on this record. Almost every solo is her, and she's fucking destroying them.
I noticed that. Yeah, because I was looking into who was singing just because I'm not familiar with their voices. And I remember, and maybe this is like a toxic like headspace to have been in, but I remember being like, I'm so surprised that Sporty's singing this much and that she's singing this well, because in my mind she was like, I didn't like think of her that much.
No,
because of how I feel like she was receptive, like you said, not as popular.
There's this
as
thing
the
where
other
like,
girls.
so in my friend group, the two most popular, and I do think this carried over, were Posh and Ginger Spice. Like these were the two most. So I had a friend who was so into Ginger Spice. He had all the posters and stuff. And when she left, he was gone. He was gone. He was devastated.
His
I
room
think he
is
shed
like an
actual
archive.
tears at recess.
No.
Like I think I it's a memory I have. I don't know if it's a dream or real, but like
You gotta ask. You gotta ask.
This is how important the Spice Girls were at the time. And Sporty wasn't really on the radar. And musically, like vocally, she's carrying this thing. Like as a chorus ensemble, like they're good together.
Yeah.
There's probably some pitch correction on this, but I don't think it's a ton. We're not in the auto-tune era. Pitch correction was used at this time, but not in the same degree that it is now, where like, if you don't know, it's on literally everything you listen to.
Even a TikTok.
Even
a
the
TikTok
best
cover.
singers have pitch correction on their stuff. It's part of the industry now. And back then it was too, but I don't think it was loaded up so fully. So they are doing a great job of being good together on this. You can hear the flaws in the first record a lot more. And so that's where my question is of like, how much of this is authentically them and how much is the production being a bit better, getting more takes in the studio. So if you have a bad one, you can give another one that's not slightly out of tune. Things like that. But yeah, overall, Sporty is insane on this thing. Like, she's a really good singer, and that she didn't have a stronger solo career, I think just kind of has to do with the brand of Sporty Spice and like, you know, the tomboy sporty thing. Cut to in 1997, there was the whole, you know, after Ellen DeGeneres came out, the anti-lesbian
movement.
Unless you're a sexualized lesbian thing in pop culture. It was a thing, and she's not a lesbian, but, you know, boys will do the boy thing, and they'll go, they'll say worse words, but she's a lesbian, we don't like her. This is not like that kind of thing. And I feel like she kind of got hosed a bit by our toxic fucking culture.
Yeah, people probably, like, I feel like maybe I'm speaking for people, but if you're not like in love with the members, you're like choosing which one is which, like when you're in a group.
Yeah.
Like we even did that like in elementary school.
Sure.
And I feel like if you ended up being sporty, you'd be like, well, I don't want to be. Like there's just like this, want to be. Sorry.
Nice.
But like you kind of get mad that you're put in the like the least popular, because all of a sudden it means that like you suck and your friends hate you, which I think is really stupid.
But
on
the
topic
actual lesson is that you're secretly the best of the group.
That's the thing. Like you're the underdog. But I had a question, like, because you brought up Ellen DeGeneres. degenerous in being a lesbian.
Sure.
But it was more about because Mel B came out as bisexual, didn't she? Or was that a rumor?
I've done a little bit of research, but like I'm not a pop culture in this way.
Fair enough.
Huge
That's where
consumer.
I come in.
This is more your area of expertise. But my understanding is that Jerry and Mel B had a fling around the time Jerry left the group.
Okay.
And so who knows whatever that's about. And then on a talk show, Mel B was like, yes, I'm bisexual.
Okay, so they just put like two
and
and
that
two.
was in 2010s.
Yeah.
I think around like 2014, 2016, something like that.
It was
in
somewhat
that
recent.
area. It felt more recent to me. Well, it's recent. That was 10 years ago, Safa.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
I'm getting up there.
Yeah, it happens quick. And there was still a backlash a little bit, even though we are not in that moment. But I think that's one of the challenges of being a star from that moment. It's almost as though, I don't want to call it necessarily nostalgia, but like you are connected to the energy of that time. And her being like, I'm bisexual, which is not a big deal, certainly not in 2015, became a big deal because she's still Mel B, you know? Obviously, there was a lot of support around it as well, but a surprising amount of backlash for the time. But I think that's just a factor of you were a Spice Girl, and that kind of weird energy was always around the group.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I guess, that's why I was asking out of curiosity, because now I'm seeing like a lot of edits of the two, and it's easy to like see more romantic connection when it's the fan cams of just them two like holding hands, whispering each other's ears over like a Jeff Buckley song, like duh. But I guess I was wondering if it was like as prevalent. But I guess if it came at different times, it shows just how like they just connected the timelines and
something happens with our brains, right? So I mean, one thing I do want to talk about a bit more in detail is that going back to the album here, that genre jump that they do across this thing, because it really is interesting compared to our new metal season, where it was really hard to pinpoint specific influences in a lot of cases, because a lot of those records were doing such weird out there stuff that a lot of it wasn't really derivative. I mean, some of it was, but most of it wasn't. This record is like the exact opposite. There is nothing you can't draw a straight line to in terms of what these songs are, which is, I guess, a pop strategy. But even then, compared to a band like TLC or something, where you can hear like all the older R&B influences being distilled through them, Spice Girls are actually just doing best of genre in a lot of cases here. So, for example, I'm going to go through each track here. Track 1, Latin pop. Track 2 is mid-90s dance. Track 3 and 4 are both R&B, different kinds. Track 5 is a 1970s disco track. Track 6, which is Move Over, the Pepsi ad, is, I described it as what someone who has never listened to heavy music thinks heavy music sounds like to old ladies. Did you have the same comment?
I literally wrote down Generation by Limp Bizkit, Spice Girls edition.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Track 7, Do It, is just a Jackson 5 song, pretty much. I mean, it's not a cover, but like it's as though I'm making my own Jackson 5 song. Track 8 is, instead of mid-90s dance, it's early 90s dance. You know, you got to play the hits. 9 is, this is Viva Forever, a Latin-inflected slow jam, which I'm also going to include here my little tidbit, which is this should be the last track on the record. You started with Latin pop, you end with Latin pop. Also, in hindsight, the Spice Girls explode after this track, and it's such a good farewell. But then they do track 10, The Lady is a Vamp, play on The Lady is a Tramp, which is like a Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, I believe, is who did the original. This song doesn't sound like that. This song sounds like Chicago the Musical.
I liked it. I literally wrote, give us burlesque, give us show tune, give us a dance number.
I think this should have been a single somewhere else. I don't think this should have been on the record. Or, Safa, do you know about hidden tracks?
I don't think so.
Okay. We used to listen to music on these things called compact discs, CDs.
Oh, I think that rings a bell.
Have you had a CD?
Yes, I bought CDs.
Okay,
I made
fantastic. That's great. When CDs first came out, this was also true on cassettes as well. What they would do is your last track, there would be a huge gap of time. And so you'd have to wait or fast forward, and then a song would begin, and that would be like a hidden track. This song sounds so much like a hidden track. Like it's not cooked all the way, and it's sillier than the rest of the record. And so, I don't know, like, why is this here? I think the record is worse for having this as an actual track on it. But that's like more of a meta production type thing. And obviously I'm not the Spice Girl, so I'm probably just completely wrong. I don't hate the song though. Like the song I don't hate. This is one of those producer-y brain things where you're like, this is a cut and we make it a single. And wouldn't it be so fun if we do our own video with this as a single between records?
I agree with that. Yeah. I like the energy of it, but I do agree. And now I'm putting 2 and 2 together. I do know what a hidden track is, and I actually loved them in CDs.
Yeah,
and I feel
awesome.
like this would have been the perfect, like, you think it's done, it's like gonna do the reloop thing, and then it starts playing something else, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking, because I obviously I'm not listening to the old CD I have that's gone. I'm listening to it on Spotify, and I'm like, was this a hidden track?
They have the deluxe too. I think that's what I accidentally listened to, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's going and going!" Like I was like, "It's not stopping." But then I realized later on,
the deluxe. There's also another track that Genius says is on this record that was not on the version that I listened to, and so I'm skipping that.
That's the one I was on.
Yeah,
I
you had
think.
the bonus track on it. Yeah, okay. That one I can't talk.
It was just like futuristic-y sounding.
I believe it was a single, like a B-side that wasn't on this, and then in the deluxe they put it on.
Yeah.
Stylistically, vocally, most of the tracks follow a similar pattern where we have Mel B or Jerry holding down a verse or chorus, Victoria and Emma getting a line or two somewhere while mainly just holding down the vocal arrangement, like they're filling it out, and then Mel C, Sporty, who was easily the strongest singer of the group, doing all of like the solos and highs. And yeah, that's what this record is. On your track by track, is there anything that stood out?
Unfortunately, no, but I think that may be what I liked about the album.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, especially after such a, like, topic heavy, or at least we made it topic heavy in season 1 when we were dissecting all those new metal albums. Like, I feel like we were trying to find meaning, and sometimes there was, and sometimes I feel like we were just like grasping at straws depending on the album. Maybe I'm being a hater, but no, I mean, I had a wonderful time.
You're being
but
a hater of our own podcast. It's
no,
in your blood, I guess.
No, being a hater of new metal content.
Oh, I see.
It's us putting the communication brain on and like trying to find stuff.
Gotcha.
Anyways, I like that this was just what it was. I'm having a fun time. I'm listening to it. The lyrics are like, you know, I love my girls. I'm having a good time. Spice up, like literally spice up your life is every boy and every girl spice up your life.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what you did with your friends between the ages of 11 and 13.
So let's do a quick track by track here. We're not going to spend too much time on this because, like, again, the record is vapid. Like, come on. So Spice Up Your Life. What is this? It's a global call to feel good, no matter your denomination. My quote from this that I like: smiling, dancing, everything is free. All you need is positivity. It's a posy record.
Yeah.
Posy is a subgenre of hardcore where instead of like doing the new metal thing of negativity, you're like, yeah, we can do it. Things are going to be great. Let's go. That kind of thing. Spice Girls were posy. Track 1. Let's go. There is also a crazy racist lyric in here. Yellow Man in Timbuktu. Did you see that one?
Must have been the wind. Like,
Again,
must have missed that one.
Yeah, I think we all did. I missed it every time because the line is unclear. So it was only when going back through the lyrics where I was like, yo, is that what they
You're on
wrote
Genius
there?
And you're like, did I read that right?
And this is also part of a broader micro trend on this record of the 90s were an era of like, we really thought we were in a post-racial world. Like, which was no, you're not. There really was like, and you look at the amount of like appropriative stuff on this record as well, where they're like, we're just gonna take all this Latin music, we're gonna say hasta la
mañana.
Yeah, hasta la mañana.
I have that written down too.
Hasta
Yeah.
mañana. Yeah, it's been in my head since I've heard it. Where it's like, is one of them Spanish? And like, you don't have to be, but there's a lot of it.
But sometimes it's better when you are, you know?
Like, anyone can learn another language, but when it's distilled through a pop record like this, you have to ask the question, what is going on
And
here?
I literally did. I was going to ask, I was like, a lot of Latin inspiration, ... Why?
Why?
That's in my notes.
But I think because it was popular, like Latin rhythms, and so they were like, well, let's bring some of the
I guess I was just
here.
like, why are the Spice Girls doing that?
And I mean, they also do in Spice Up Your Life, they do just a bunch of different words for yes, like they do hi, ya, see, because they're just trying, they're global. They're going global, and they're going global in the most, I don't know, not fully thought through way possible. So that very troubling lyric that I just quoted, they are changing it for the reunion tour, or did change it for the reunion tour. So, they caught up to the moment a little bit, even if the rest of everyone didn't catch up. Track 2, Stop. A nice reminder to stop and smell the roses. Stop right now. Thank you very much. I need somebody with a human touch. It's timeless.
Yeah.
It's
Classic.
get it tattooed across your neck.
Don't do that.
No, don't do that. Track 3, Too Much, Balance. Don't be unhealthily codependent is what this track is about, right? You get too much, it's not good. Not enough, also not good. You gotta find the middle. Isn't that incredible? Also, this track, my odd little factoid that I've been holding on for my entire life about this song is that it shares its melody line, I think in the chorus, shares this exact same notes minus the semitone of difference as the overworld theme of Final Fantasy VII. And because I was playing both of these things at the same time, like Final Fantasy VII and Spice Girls, anytime I hear that song from Final Fantasy VII, the chorus of Too Much, it plays in my head over top of it.
Well, now we know why you like the Spice Girls so much.
Both were happening at the same time. One isn't because of the other. And that was, but I actually think this was a very specific musical moment for me of figuring out how music works. It's like, how does this sit on top of this? That's weird. Why does this make me think of this? It's because I don't think they're in the same key, but the melody lines share the same notes. Saturday Night Divas. It's about being a Saturday Night Diva. I have no other comments on that track.
Simply.
Never give up on the good times. The title is the point. Never give up on the good times. The track Move Over. This is for a commercial. My only comment on this track, looking at the lyrics, was this is just words. There's no anything here. This is not good. Do you have thoughts on Move Over?
I think the only comment was like, I feel like I'm repeating myself because it's all the same stuff, but nothing is like standing out. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
There's not a lot here.
So maybe that's why I feel like I couldn't, like, maybe I didn't realize that it was just words, but the notes prove that I'm like, I can't grasp onto anything.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's kind of like a seizing the moment, and like the current generation is now. Like, we are like, get out of here, you old grungy music reviewers. We're here, and we're Spice Girls. Track 7, Do It. This is the Jackson 5 style song. It's probably my favorite song on here, I think, going back. It's probably the strongest critique of conservative values policing women. I think they're directly addressing it on this. And I don't know, using that background of the Jackson 5 to do it, I thought was probably the strongest essence of girl power is on here.
I agree. I wrote feminism and female empowerment.
Yeah.
Rules are for breaking.
Rules are for breaking.
Yeah, I like that, like that sentiment, that idea behind it.
Exactly. Like the next track, Denying. This is about a motherfucker. This is about a guy.
This is hardcore.
Yeah, this is about a guy who keeps going on denying, a denying ass buster is what this is about. Lyrically, this song is just No Scrubs, but not as good. Again, TLC's No Scrubs, one of the best songs of all time. A scrub is a guy who thinks he's fine, but it's not. It's a buster. And then what should be the last track on this for me is track 9, Viva Forever. It's sad. It's the Latin slow jam. And in hindsight, a kind of farewell to the strange moment that these 5 people had of a rocket ship to stardom, right? It is very sweet because if you take everything that got built around these young women away, it's nice that they got to have that. They have the kind of moment that you would hope more people get to have. It's kind of a sad thing that for them it ended extremely quickly and they've kind of faded into this weird post-fame landscape. Like, it's odd what happens. It's kind of like child stars, where what happens to them after you don't see them. But I think they're probably doing fine. But, there was something bittersweet about this track where it's like, you got to have your moment, but as you're recording this, you don't know that it's about to end in like 2 months effectively.
Damn. And as a fan, you felt that. Like, you were like, oh, my girls, where are my girls
As
going?
a kid, this meant nothing. But as an old man who had, I resonate with the idea that like when that moment's gone, it's sad and you actually don't know you're in it when you are. Because it's just, it's very intense. It's very concentrated. And for them, they got the most extreme version of that you could possibly have. Maybe out of any artist ever.
So quickly.
Right?
But short-lived.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe they are chasing that same thing. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just happy with their money. And, that's fine. And then The Lady is a Vamp ends this
Banger.
record. What is this? It's the Spice Girls singing themselves into the pantheon of iconic women that they sing about in the songs. They're just making references to like Jackie O and,
She's the best. She's the talk of the town.
She's the talk of the town. Even the president likes her, maybe, is what they're doing on here. And so they sing about all these different women and they end it with Scary Baby, Ginger Posh, Sporty Yes, Now That's Your Lot. We're the Spice Girls, ready to go. Ladies and gents, can you please take your seats? And we hope that you enjoy the show. Thank you very much. So they're adding themselves to Mount Rushmore of women right at the end of this record, which is the campiest shit you could possibly do. But small tidbit, the Spice Girls really affected drag culture as well. So it's, in terms of camp, probably the most successful move you could make.
Damn,
they knew what they were doing. That. I'm just a pedantic producer type who's like, I think this record's better without this song. But yeah. That's Spiceworld. Did you have any other comment to add about this record?
I had a question. Maybe I feel like I'm asking it to younger Marc, but I guess you could answer today as younger Marc.
Sure.
Speaking of everything they built and the whole girl power thing, pardon my heteronormative questioning, but did you feel like you could relate and you felt like a part of the world that the Spice Girls built when you were younger, or was it just like good music? I guess you mentioned like having your friends also like them as well, so maybe that was easier, but I guess maybe it's a very like Gen Z take of, we, despite being a bit more quote unquote woke, we did have a lot of separation where it was like the boy bands were for the boys, the girl bands were for the girls. Like that's kind of how I felt growing up. So I just wonder like if you've ever made those connections or thought about it.
No, this is so good that you bring this up, because this is going to be one of my closing points here. So young me was a little queer dude. This I knew. I'm bi as well. Go Mel B. Mel C. Go Mels. Go all Mels. We support all the Mels.
This is for the Mels out there.
Like, I knew, but I didn't know. You know what I mean? You're 11. You're like, I don't know. This is just normal. Everyone can like everyone. Like, that's what I thought. And so the Spice Girls, for me, I was just like, well, these are badass ladies who I would like to influence me. And I think a lot of my friends who have no queer bone in their body, at least as far as they would admit or whatever, I take them on their word, also weren't putting them up as like sex symbols on their wall. Like, I don't think my buddy who had Jerry Halliwell on his wall was like, I'm doing this because she's a sex symbol. I do think there were fans who were doing that. And I mean, I guess it's fine. They're being marketed to you that way as well. They're both things at both times. But I do think there was a pretty clear division, like on the playground, if we're going to like 11-year-old Marc, of who's interested in them and why. They were one of these concentrated points of culture that you could use to find your people. It's like, if I'm more interested in the crowd that's listening to the Spice Girls as a bunch of women making music and impacting the culture as an 11 to 13-year-old. I want to find those people, and the ones who are like, Posh is hot. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to know you very well. I think I know what you're about, right? But both things were happening. I think we did a less good job than we do now of like articulating that divide, maybe, or maybe just being cognizant of it, because social media puts all of this in your face. We're more in tune to the why different aspects of a fandom are gravitating to a thing, and we're in conflict with each other. At the time, it was more of just a feeling of the way you like the Spice Girls is giving me the ick.
I guess that's where I'm asking the question from. Like, it's very social media brain-esque of me to assume that it was divided like that, or that you thought of it that way.
It was, but the lines were in a not so clearly like drawn in the sand, right? If anything, thinking back to the exact playground where these interactions were happening, it was a dusty gravel pit, you know? The lines were only faintly imprinted in that dusty gravel pit. And the Spice Girls were an integral part of me working out what people's relationship was to more feminine aspects of pop culture, and sort of figuring out that like, I think my take on this is not the mainstream take. And I'm kind of interested in the other people around me who, again, a lot of the women who were listening to them as well. I had a lot of friends who were girls, because I was like, I like that you're listening to these women for the same reasons that I am, which is not a creepy reason. Again, they're being sold to you as a sexualized object. So again, I'm not like blaming you if that's how you listen to them. Normal part of life, but that's not what I'm.
That's not how
after.
you were relating
exactly.
to the other listeners.
I didn't. Yeah, not my interest in this instance, right? And so, yeah, that's what they did. Was there another part of that question?
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. Like, I did take the very like kind of divided identity approach to thinking about it, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Like you said, like, I am listening to it because I like the music, and you just so happen to agree with the people who are thinking about it the same way as you.
So to end this podcast on Spice Girls, Spiceworld, the question at the end of the day is, what did I take away from this record and this cultural moment that makes it worth talking about today? I think it's two main things. The first one is the thing that we just talked about, the girl power and the relationship to girl power, right? I could see my classmates reacting to Spice Girls in a particular way. A similar kind of reactionary way to current pop icons, to like queer pop icons now. The dudes on the playground that I did not vibe with, it's the same kind of reactionary thing. Or the hypersexualization thing. There's both versions of that, where I don't like these popular girls, or yeah, she's hot, right? Those are the two, and that's my toxic masculinity voice.
Perfect.
It's pretty good. I've had a lifetime to practice it, to harness it. So like that girl power thing it was important for what it did to us and let us see if we're paying attention. For me, it was important for letting me observe culture in action, because I'm the kind of person who just watches that shit and has an interaction on the playground at 11 and goes, well, what was that about? Like, why is this so weird? Why can't they just like Posh for who she is? Which was my thought. Who is Posh? We know nothing about her. Now we do, but back then there's nothing. And of the group, she's the most go on girl, give us nothing of the bunch. Could not tell you a word about her other than she's fancy and she probably should eat a little bit more. Just a pinch. She's very thin. Girl, are you okay?
Girl, are you good?
Girl, are you okay? Yeah. So girl power, it's now this kind of parody, but you need that sentiment because of what hegemony does to people. Same reason why a huge swath of very different people that make up the LGBTQ have this unifier, have pride. Even though we don't all necessarily agree with each other, you need it, because if you don't, you get run over. It's what happens. And that's why you need girl power.
Even if it's commercialized, it still can be powerful to be in it.
Exactly. And because it's commercialized, it actually does have the fuel necessary to hit the mass required. We could probably use some more girl power right now to mobilize people against things that are currently happening. Yeah. And then the last thing, musically, I think what this did is like, the thing I realized listening to it, I still genre hop in my writing, in the stuff I like to listen to. I like people who play with a lot of different stuff musically. And that the Spice Girls did that, I had no idea. And then going back to this, I could listen to this 15 times and I really thought I wouldn't be able to. Why? Because every song is doing something different, even though it's doing the same thing. That's magic. That's, I think, great songwriting, where it has a cohesive identity, but you're not stuck in the same sound the whole time. It's beautiful. What did this record do for you listening to it the time you had now? Just kind of fun.
It was fun. And I think, honestly, it made me reflect on the fact that I didn't have a lot of girl groups, like, at least maybe not ones that I liked, or that they were branded differently. Mm-hmm. And I kind of fell victim to the, oh, she's hot, because I was a One Direction stan. Right. And I was sexualizing Harry Styles and Zayn Malik. I still liked the music, but I guess I wish that I, like, despite the commercialization of it all, I wish that I did have a bit more of that girl power energy, instead of it being targeted as like, you love this man and like maybe he'll fall in love with you at this concert. You should come spend hundreds of dollars, whatever. But I mean, I find that energy still kind of moving now to the media I consume. Like, there's a boom in the HBO series Girls and Sex and the City, because I think the girls yearn for that girl power. It's interesting. You wouldn't think that like something like Spice Girls would get me thinking about these things, but like that's the beauty of girl power, and it's also the beauty of the communications degree, I guess. But yeah, that's what it got me thinking about.
It's not even just that. I mean, to close this, I think the closing line here is like, love them or hate them, they did something super impressive in a very short amount of time. And that thing is that they overshadowed Nelson Mandela. Safa, thanks for starting season 2 of Sonic Subcultures. See you next time.
See ya. Thanks for listening to Sonic Subcultures, part of the Media Resonance Network. You can check out this and other podcasts about media and culture on the Media Resonance YouTube channel at mediaresonance.com, and of course on Spotify. Wherever you get your content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow, and hey, tell your friends. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Also, you can support us on Patreon.
You can find us at patreon.com/the Media Resonance Network.